HOA board voted to ban firearms. Too bad they built their office on my constitutional land. What happens when a power-hungry HOA board tries to strip away your constitutional rights, only to discover they've built their empire on your land? In the quiet suburban enclave of Liberty Pines, one woman's defiance sparked a firestorm that would expose greed, overreach, and the unshakable power of standing your ground. The morning sun glinted off the manicured lawns of Liberty Pines, a gated community where every mailbox matched and every fence was regulation height. Sarah Whitaker, a single mother and lifelong firearms enthusiast, sipped her coffee on her porch, her concealed carry permit tucked safely in her wallet. She'd moved here for the schools and the promise of a peaceful life, but peace was the last thing she'd get after the HOA board's latest decree. A total ban on firearms, even inside private homes. The notice, slipped under her door like a thief in the night, claimed it was for community safety. Sarah's blood boiled. She'd grown up with guns, trained in their safe use since she was a teenager, and kept a handgun in her bedside safe for protection. Now, these self-appointed overlords thought they could dictate what she did in her own home. She crumpled the notice and vowed to fight. The HOA board, led by Karen Wentworth, a real estate agent with a penchant for power, had been tightening its grip on Liberty Pines for years. Karen, with her perfectly coiffed hair and a smile that never reached her eyes, had pushed through rules banning everything from unapproved flower beds to unsightly holiday decorations. But this firearm ban was her magnum opus, spurred by a single incident where a neighbor's teenager had fired a BB gun at a squirrel. Karen seized the moment, rallying the board with tales of potential violence and community values. The vote was unanimous, or so she claimed, and signs proclaiming Liberty Pines a gun-free zone sprouted overnight at the community's entrances, pool, and clubhouse. Sarah, however, wasn't buying it. She knew her Second Amendment rights, reinforced by the Supreme Court's District of Columbia versus Heller ruling, protected her right to keep a firearm in her home for self-defense. She also knew something Karen didn't. The HOA's shiny new office, built last year with much fanfare, sat on a sliver of land deeded to Sarah's property decades ago. Sarah's first move was to dig through her property records. Her late father, a meticulous lawyer, had left her the house and a file cabinet full of documents. Among them was a survey from 1995, showing her lot extended just beyond the fence line right under the HOA's office. The developer had botched the land transfer when the community was built, and no one had noticed until now. Sarah's heart raced as she realized the leverage she held. The HOA wasn't just overreaching. They were trespassing on her constitutional ground. She called a lawyer, Mark Reynolds, a no-nonsense Texan who'd taken on HOAs before. "They can't ban guns in your home," Mark told her, citing Heller and Texas law, which explicitly prohibits HOAs from restricting firearm possession on private property. "And if that office is on your land, they've got bigger problems than their little gun ban." https://guides Texas.gov/property-owners-associations/CRS. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah attended the next HOA meeting, held in the very office that stood on her property. The room buzzed with tension as Karen stood at the podium, gushing about safer streets and family-friendly values. Sarah waited her turn, clutching her survey and a copy of the Second Amendment. When she stood to speak, Karen's smile faltered. "This ban is illegal," Sarah began, her voice steady. "The Supreme Court says I have a fundamental right to keep a firearm in my home for self-defense. You can't override that." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Karen, flustered, insisted the board had the authority to protect the community. Sarah didn't back down. "And another thing," she said, holding up the survey. "Your office is on my land. I could have it torn down tomorrow. The room went silent. Karen's face turned ashen, but she quickly regained composure, dismissing Sarah's claim as absurd and adjourning the meeting. https://www.sun-sentinel.com/2023/10-5/ask-a-real-estate-pro-can-peoples-homes. The twist came the next day when Sarah's neighbor, Tom, a retired surveyor with a grudge against Karen, corroborated her findings. Tom had worked for the county and remembered the developer's shoddy paperwork. He'd warned the HOA years ago, but they'd ignored him, too busy fining him for his non-compliant mailbox. Tom offered to testify, his eyes gleaming with the chance to stick it to Karen. Together, they uncovered more. The HOA had used community funds to build the office without proper permits, a violation of state law. Sarah and Mark crafted a plan. Challenge the gun ban in court and demand the office be removed or the land deeded back to her. The HOA caught off guard, scrambled to respond. https://guides Texas gov/property-owners-associations/CRS. The confrontation erupted at a special meeting called by Karen to address the firearm issue. The clubhouse was packed, with residents split between those who supported the ban and those who saw it as a power grab. Sarah arrived with Mark and Tom, armed with documents and a fire in her eyes. Karen, flanked by her board, tried to control the narrative, claiming the ban was for the children. But Sarah was ready. She presented the survey, Tom's testimony, and a legal brief outlining the HOA's overreach. "You can't ban guns in my home," she said, her voice cutting through the room. "And you can't enforce rules from an office you built on my land without permission." The crowd erupted, some cheering, others shouting in protest. Karen, cornered, tried to deflect, accusing Sarah of threatening community harmony. But then Tom stood, revealing the HOA's illegal construction, and the tide turned. Residents who'd chafed under Karen's rules began to speak up, sharing stories of petty fines and harassment. https://theliberalgunclub.com/phpbb3/viewtopic. PHP question, Mark T, =47611. Karen's empire crumbled in the weeks that followed. The court battle was swift and brutal. Mark filed a lawsuit citing the Heller decision and Texas property law, arguing the gun ban was unenforceable and the HOA office constituted trespass. The judge, unimpressed by Karen's tearful pleas about safety, ruled in Sarah's favor. The gun ban was struck down as a violation of constitutional rights, and the HOA was ordered to either demolish the office or pay Sarah for the land, a sum they couldn't afford without raising dues. Karen's reputation took a bigger hit. Residents, emboldened by Sarah's victory, voted her out as board president, replacing her with Tom, who promised transparency and respect for homeowners' rights. Social media buzzed with the story, as posts on X celebrated Sarah's stand against tyrannical HOAs and shared memes of Karen's fall from grace. https://www.reddit.com/r/legal advice/comments/840queuing/hoa_trying_to_all_guides https://guides Texas gov/property-owners-associations/CCRS. The fallout didn't end there. The HOA, desperate to save face, tried to rewrite its covenants to focus on reasonable restrictions, like banning firearm discharge in common areas. But Sarah's fight had awakened Liberty Pines. Residents formed a watchdog group to monitor the board, ensuring no future overreach. Sarah, once just another homeowner, became a local hero, her story inspiring others to question their HOAs. She didn't tear down the office instead. She negotiated a lease, funneling the payments into a college fund for her daughter. Her home remained her castle, her constitutional rights intact. In the end, Sarah's defiance showed that one person, armed with truth and resolve, could topple a petty tyrant. Liberty Pines was no longer just a neighborhood. It was a reminder that rights aren't negotiable and power, when unchecked, always meets its match. What do you think? Did Sarah do the right thing by taking on the HOA, or should she have compromised for the sake of community harmony? Share your thoughts below. Word count: 1,500.